Hey guys, welcome to our G side.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
I can.
Oh, there you go.
I can do it both hands too.
Alright. Anyway. Okay. Welcome to our review for Star Trek Into Darkness. Yeah. The second Star Trek, starring Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Carl Urban,
Zoe Saldana,
Simon Pegg, Anton
Yelchin, John Cho,
and of course, Sherlock himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. So take it away.
This is the second film under the revitalized Star Trek franchise directed by J.J. Abrams. So, after the first one basically rebooted the entire universe, this picks up probably like a year or a couple of months after the first
maybe
one.
I think like something like a year or something.
Right. So, as usual, as with the character of Captain Kirk, whether it be Chris Pine or William Shatner, the guy does not follow rules. He does not respect authority. So at the start of this film, it gets him into trouble, and he ends up losing command of the Enterprise. It basically defaults back to Captain Pike, who was his old boss, Bruce Greenwood. But something happens along the way that
Puts him back in the chair.
But before that, there's an attack on Starfleet.
Right.
An attack by this mysterious character named John Harrison. He's like performing terrorist acts against
Benedict
Starfleet.
Cumberbatch.
Yeah, and it gets pretty violent. It doesn't get graphic or anything, but
And it gets personal.
There's a toll on certain Starfleet members, and as a result, Admiral Marcos, played by Peter Weller,
Mr. Robocop himself,
orders Kirk, Spock, and the rest of the Enterprise crew to go into Klingon territory, which is forbidden at this point, which is the Klingon homeworld of Kronos, and get John Harrison,
so to speak.
Yeah. So that's when all the fun starts.
Ooh. I think, oh man, this movie was information overload. I was like, it was a blast. I gotta say,
Absolutely.
it was a blast.
Absolutely.
In a way, when you look at it, it's a bit of a relook
Yeah.
of one of those popular Star Trek movies
Star
around.
Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan.
Spoiler. Sorry. But man, I guess it was just the execution for me that counted the most here.
Yeah. Well, the fact that it is kind of a tribute to Star Trek 2,
Yeah.
which is one of my favorite films of all time.
I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
Never fully watched it.
It's okay. I can lend you the DVDs. I got the whole first batch of the DVDs.
I think I watched it when I was like 8 years old, and I got kind of like bothered by the whole part with with the bug in the ear, that slug in the ear.
Yeah. But anyway, for me, I got that on beta before. My tito sent us a Betamax copy of that.
Yes.
So I watched it hundreds of times. Before I watched, any of the other Star Trek films, or even Star Trek the original series. I only saw Star Trek the original series when we were in college. This was the 90s. So when I finally started, because they were showing it on Star World back in the day, every day at around 9-10 p.m., I became a Trekkie because of that. And that's when I appreciated the character of Khan Noonien Singh, played by Ricardo Montalban back then. And Star Trek 2: The Wrath of Khan basically elevated him to become the greatest Star Trek villain ever.
Yeah.
Right after the first Trek film with Abrams became so successful, people were saying, you have to do Khan. You have to do Khan. Because that's the demand. Who can match wits with Kirk but Khan? And when Benedict Cumberbatch was cast, he's going to be an awesome Khan. They were like, no, it's not John Harrison. John Harrison. Sherlock plays John Harrison. Smaug, the voice of the dragon, is going to be John Harrison. So when the big reveal happens, he is the genetic Superman that Khan Noonien Singh was. He's got that such an awesome
Killer
his
voice.
presence. He's gotten so much more confidence since he's had success as Sherlock and all these other roles.
Man, is he buff here?
He's really buff.
He's really buff here.
And he proves to be a match for not just Kirk, but Spock and everybody else. Because you know, that's what he's supposed to be, a genetic superior to the average human or Vulcan.
I think he's a stronger villain compared to the Eric Bana's Nero.
Oh yeah,
stronger,
definitely. And considering Eric Bana was this Romulan, traveling through time. This is power and that vengeance on his mind. And his ship is called the Vengeance.
Exactly.
It's big black ship that's 3 times as big as the Enterprise.
He's just got the gravitas to really pull it off, and he was a excellent choice. I really have to agree here. But this entire movie was just like,
never let up.
Just never let up. Never let up.
Yeah, there was no slow time. Pacing was excellent. I didn't look at my watch even once. Not once. I was into it. It had callbacks to classic Trek that I really appreciated, like the Daystrom Institute, and they even mentioned the USS Bradbury. There's a tribute to Ray Bradbury, the great science fiction writer.
Of course, we have to mention the Tribbles again.
The Tribbles are there, at least one Tribble. I wonder why it didn't multiply. There was mention of the Mud incident from a few months back, going back to Hardcourt Felton Mudd, who was the classic Trek character. He was a funny guy who appeared in like 2 original series episodes. So there is enough callback to classic Trek show and classic Trek film. As a Trek fan like me, so happy that they did. There's that major reversal of roles in the end. When it happened, I was like, no, they're not gonna do this. And I was like, I start wondering what are they gonna do for the third because something happens. I'm like, no, they're not gonna. They're gonna go all the way. And there's enough.
But it was nicely done.
Yeah,
it was nicely done how they play it in the end. Right? The role reversal.
Right.
And I also love the fact that they brought back Leonard Nimoy again, it was just like it was a nice nod to
it didn't interrupt the flow of the film. It became integral to the film. Knowledge gained from speaking to old Spock was necessary.
From an alternate timeline. It's just like it felt surreal watching that part. But it was cool. It made sense. It was a callback to the last Star Trek movie, and it worked.
And I also like that the characters had developed since the first. You give Hikaru Sulu his first taste of sitting in the con because in classic Trek lore, George Takei's Sulu eventually becomes a captain of his own ship. Then also you see Anton Yelchin for a time, Mr. Chekhov goes into engineering, take the place of Scotty because he gets into an argument with Kirk. The character of Uhura getting into fights with Spock over their relationship. That progresses also.
It gives bigger dimension to their relationship. It was that was nicely done. It was like heartfelt. But what I did love here, what I really love, is the whole banter between Spock, Kirk, and Bones. And that was like it just gave me chills because I really started with the original Star Trek. Every Saturday morning when I used to watch it, and just seeing them just like banter back and forth, it was so, it was just old school Trek with a modern twist.
The core of any old Trek movie was always the relationship between those three. Kirk always knew that if he had one of those two beside him, he wouldn't die. He was very confident. That's why when they killed off William Shatner's Kirk in Generations, he was alone. He didn't have Spock or McCoy beside him. Because these are his friends. These are the ones who know him inside out. One is the temperamental Southern doctor. One is the unemotional Vulcan, half human. And they give him proper perspective in any scenario. So that was the beauty of it. And bringing Carlo Urban and Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine into it, they've adapted the characters.
The chemistry is amazing.
The banter was quick, the wit, and there's enough. Again, it's called back to classic.
And it's so funny. It's really funny dialogue. You hear it out.
I'm glad they gave us eye candy in Alice Eve. So hot. I mean, she was already hot.